When you cut to me, what am I going to do?
We have a special guest in the house. His name is Stewart M. Cowan. He's an attorney, amazing attorney, and he's been practicing since 1985. He's owned his own firm since 1990, and he served as a temp judge. We got him in the house today. Let's run that intro.
Hit it.
Stu, how are we doing today?
I'm well. How are you two? You're looking good, both of you.
Doing great.
Thank you. You're looking great yourself.
sir.
It's great to be here.
Yes. Thanks so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
We are in sunny San Diego. And is this where you started practicing, San Diego?
Yes. No, actually, you're right. I actually started practicing up in Tustin.
Tustin.
Yeah.
Okay. Where is that specifically?
It's Orange County, right by Santa Ana and Irvine.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
That was a bad firm. That did not go well.
Is that where you're from?
No,
That area? Or?
no. I was born in Orange County, but I grew up in Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
Oh, what was that like?
Colder.
Cold.
Yeah, sounds cold.
But less traffic and didn't lock the doors, and it was a good place to grow up, actually.
Yeah, that's nice when you can safely not lock your doors, not worry about someone running in.
For sure.
It's a beautiful feeling.
It's a great feeling.
Real quick, what makes a good law firm and a bad law firm?
Because you had mentioned bad.
Well, the people
Yeah.
and the culture, and who's ever in charge. If the person in charge is willing to let ethics slide. Willing to let their associates or other attorneys do things that are not very good, then that firm it'll be from the top down. And if the leaders are ethical and require people to do the right job and the right thing, then they'll be a good firm.
What types of things were you experiencing that were like that while you were there?
Oh, that particular firm?
Yeah.
Well, that firm...
It was a long time ago. They're not gonna-
Well, it's. I have to be polite about it because they were good guys and I left under good terms, but they did not practice law very well, and they missed a number of statutes and they had a number of issues. And basically, what happened is I walked in on the office on August 25th. And the partners said, we can't guarantee your salary past the end of the week, and we won't have malpractice insurance past the end of the week. And so I said, I'll work until the end of the week. And
Yes, sir.
2 weeks later, I was working for a small firm in San Diego.
Oh, wow. So at the end of the week, you're like, all right, guys.
Yeah,
I'm out of here.
I'll help close up things until the end of the week.
Nice. So you packed up and just moved?
Well,
Or-
my dad was living in San Diego, and my mom was living in San Diego.
Oh, gotcha.
So I knew ultimately that I would end up in San Diego.
Gotcha. And so your first step once you got here was researching for a new firm or?
I found the firm before I came down.
Smart.
And it was a small insurance defense firm, and that was a good group of guys. They were very good attorneys. They worked real hard. I enjoyed that.
Yeah,
Got good experience there.
that's great. How long were you there?
About 18 months.
We were moving fast.
Well-
Stewart is moving fast out here.
I didn't want to be pigeonholed in a particular area of law, and the problem with when you go to a firm that does insurance defense, they tend to pigeonhole you, and I wanted to have a slightly broader practice. And so, but I left that firm. I'm still friends with those attorneys. Those were good people.
Yeah.
And then I went to work for a small sole practitioner who didn't really know what it is I did, so it was a little more independent, not a lot of guidance. Again, I'm not going to talk too much about why I left that firm, but let's just say on May 1st, 1990, on a napkin at the old B Street Cafe, we wrote my separation agreement, and on May 15, 1990, I was on my own.
Woo!
And you've been on your own since.
On my own since. And I don't know what happened to the napkin, but I had it for years.
Nice. I always like to know the next step moment. So like you wrote it, you were on B Street Cafe, you wrote it down on the napkin, you were out of here. What was your first step towards being on your own?
Well, okay, so that particular attorney did not know the type of law I practiced, so I left with all my cases.
Gotcha.
And that made the transition very easy. Yeah. No, I left with the caseload.
Got it. So you already had a bunch of clients, you had work to do.
I wouldn't say a bunch, but I had enough.
clients.
I had enough work to be in practice and make it over the first couple of years. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
If you were in a firm that practices one set of law, one part of the law, How were you able to get clients who needed other help?
Okay, so when I left the insurance defense firm, I had made great contacts with adjusters, examiners, and insurance managers, and I was able to get a number of cases sent to me by various insurance companies. That's it. You need, if you're going to go somewhere and if you're going to try and open up your own business or go to a smaller firm that doesn't practice that, you better have contacts. You better have people sending you work.
Yeah.
And then once I got to the small office, that attorney would assign me work so that I had a full caseload.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So you were getting referred a lot of work at that point. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What-
It would be hard to go on your own if you don't have the work.
Yeah.
What was your biggest struggle when you started your own firm?
Getting my clients to look past the fact I looked 19.
How old were you?
When I started on my own, 29.
Okay.
Yeah, I was sworn in as attorney at 25, and I was on my own 29, turning 30.
So people were like, we can't trust this kid.
No,
Look at him.
I look 19.
And then how did you get them to? How did you instill trust? You just
You know, that's a very good question. I don't know that you can instill trust with one particular method.
Yeah.
You know, I take the time to explain. Even today, I mean, it's 37 years. You know, if my client asks me a question, they're entitled to the answer, and I will give them the answer. And even today, if I don't know the answer, I say, I don't know the answer, but I'm going to go find out for you.
and that's truthful. That's being truthful.
Well, and that's the best you could do. I mean, even today, I don't know the answer to every legal question in my area.
Right.
What is one of the main questions you get?
Well, okay, so I practice workers' compensation applicant work, and I practice personal injury plaintiffs work. The main question I get is, how valuable is my case?
For sure. And you're like, well, it depends.
Well, you know, I'm not entirely sure I even know the answer to that yet. We just met. We've been talking for about 15 minutes. But you are here, which means at least I think you have a good case.
Right.
Yeah. You've made it past the telephone interview.
Right. Yeah, because once again, I'm interviewing you. You're not interviewing me.
Well, no, it's a two-way street.
Yeah,
it's
for
a two-way street. I'm absolutely being
Yeah.
interviewed, and I'm absolutely interviewing. Yeah.
Yeah. So when do you? So in that case, when you're interviewing, what things make you not want to take a case?
When the person thinks they know the law better than me because of this thing called Google. Okay?
Well, I chat GBT'd it and it said that something else.
You know, you can find whatever you want. If you can find whatever you want on Google, it doesn't mean it applies to your case.
Right.
All right. Also, listen. The alarm bells go off when the person is telling me what the value of their case is. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
You know,
Red
why
flags.
are they here for? Why are they talking to me if they already know the value of their case?
Right. So that kind of lets you know that if you did take them on, it's going to be a headache at every step of the way.
Those people turn out to be headaches every
Yeah.
step of the way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they're the type of person that would send an email at 4 p.m. Friday afternoon, and then be surprised that I didn't remember the email at 8 o'clock Monday morning. Right?
Yeah. Or be mad that you didn't respond and it was 10 minutes later.
Yeah. Well, that too. Yeah. So, I mean, one of my rules is if you're I want you to email me. The best way to communicate is email. But if you email me at 4 p.m. on Friday, don't be surprised if I didn't remember it Monday morning.
Literally.
Now PI has the largest. You have a lot of competitors, right?
It's very competitive.
Very, very competitive. What is something that you've done to make yourself stand out from everyone else?
Well, I am actually the best attorney in town that handles personal injury that also involves somebody that's injured on the job. They're two separate cases, but they're interrelated. And there are not a lot of plaintiffs' attorney in this town that even know how that works.
So that's the workers' comp side of things.
It's both.
Gotcha.
All right, let's say the person let's say they're a delivery driver for Amazon. They get rear-ended. Okay, they have both a workers' compensation case because they were working at the time, and they have a personal injury case because the driver behind them was negligent and injured them.
Right.
All right, but the laws are interwoven But most plaintiff attorneys don't know that.
Interesting. So you're dealing with a couple different things, not only the negligence, but then a company.
Well, okay,
Aside from the insurance company?
There's usually two insurance companies. There's usually the insurance company for the other driver, the at-fault driver, right? And then there is, you're correct, the workers' compensation insurance company.
Right.
And different rules apply. Workers' compensation is no fault. If you are on the job in California working and you are injured, okay, doesn't matter how you were injured as long as you weren't drunk, intoxicated, you weren't the initial aggressor in a fight, or you didn't try to injure yourself intentionally, you're entitled to workers' compensation benefits. All right. In personal injury, tort, a person has to be liable or responsible for your injuries and your damages. Okay, so it's two very different legal principles and two very different legal systems. The civil system is a jury system, and the workers' compensation system is an administrative law system.
So is that what makes it tricky?
No.
What makes it tricky that other people can't handle it as well as you?
So every penny that the workers' compensation insurance company provides to the injured worker in benefits, they stand in front of that injured worker when we go get the recovery from the responsible third party. It's called subrogation, and it creates problems. Because if the workers' compensation insurance company thinks it's entitled to recover every single penny that they've paid, even if there is limited insurance or limited responsibility, it makes it difficult to resolve the personal injury case because, in theory, it doesn't happen in practice, but in theory, the worker might not get any of that money from the third party case, the civil case.
Do you have any crazy stories or on big cases that you've done?
Well, I've represented a number of big cases. And I don't know if they're crazy stories, but I mean, some of the pictures, I recently resolved a case where a dog bit and almost totally removed a beautiful woman's eyelid.
Eyelid?
Eyelid.
Ooh.
Think about that.
That's just right there.
Yeah. Oh, if she hadn't been wearing contact lenses, her cornea might have gotten scratched.
Ooh.
I mean, really, very lucky she was.
Was she at like a dog park?
No. She was over at a friend's house, and their dog just bit her.
Wow. And
Yeah, I really don't want to get too much into any specifics about that.
Right.
But I mean, that was just very recent, and as you can imagine, the pain, the injury, the shredded eyelid in the emergency room. I mean, from a value standpoint, they were fantastic pictures. From a human being concerned about another person,
Right.
they're horrible
Horrifying.
pictures.
Yeah. Especially when you have a beautiful woman, you taking away her beauty.
You know what? She was always beautiful. Even with the one, she was a very beautiful woman. She is a very beautiful
And
woman.
they were able to fix it up?
They've done a very good job. She needs a little bit more to get it to match the other eye.
Gotcha.
It's hard.
And so this was a valuable case is what you were
Yeah,
saying?
it was a great case. It was a good case.
What about any big, because you do a lot of workers' comp too, so any big companies, is it usually like a large company that you're dealing with or any?
Well, all insurance companies, if you want to look at it that way, are big, all right? But then a lot of employers are self-insured, and so their claims are administered by a third-party administrator. Municipalities are technically self-insured. They usually have their own risk department.
Gotcha.
And they usually have their own attorneys, but even municipalities will hire outside firms to defend their cases. In California, workers' comp, we have State Compensation Insurance Fund, which is not technically an insurance company. It's actually a California agency. When they implemented mandatory workers' compensation almost very close to exactly 100 years ago, it was mandatory that all employers become insured. Well, there's a lot of employers out there that would have a very hard time getting insured. So a lot of insurance companies would not insure these employers. So the state of California created this agency called State Compensation Insurance Fund. And it originally started off as they insured the people that were otherwise uninsurable. Well, they're the largest insurer, if you will, in California for work comp. Zenith is very big. Hartford's big. Liberty Mutual's big. All the names that you would recognize.
Right. Liberty Bibbity.
when you first started and you started your firm, you didn't start. You started your firm in 1990, right?
I started on May 15, 1990.
He knows the dates.
I know the
It's because of the napkin.
What did you do for advertising? Like now we see.
Advertising back
billboard.
then. Advertising in 1990.
Different
What
game.
was that?
You
like?
know, that was more taking somebody to lunch. Honestly, I didn't spend a lot on advertising except for whining and dining
Right.
potential clients.
Interesting.
I didn't really get into the advertising or other type of getting myself out there.
You weren't on a billboard?
Wasn't on a billboard, wasn't on a bus, not mail flyers. I joined a networking group in around 2008. That worked pretty well. I became a client of some of the like web.com, a couple of those. That was very hit and miss.
The early
That was very hit and miss. But I can't remember the name of the first one. It was actually okay. But for some reason, they started sending me, and by sending me, I mean telephone calls, criminal cases and family law cases. And I had specifically said, I don't want those, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember which I got rid of first, but within 2 years of my, by 1992, I had gotten rid of all family law and all criminal because I hated those. If you're a criminal law attorney, most of your clients are criminals, and if you're a family law attorney, nobody's happy.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone's just pissed off.
All right, so this whatever reason, this advertising firm, just started its algorithm forgot that I didn't want these.
Yeah.
And so I got bombarded by them, and I switched.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you were focused in 2 years later, 1992, you were already focused in where you're still focused now? Or did it take longer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We need dates.
Way back in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
Way back in the 90s, I practiced more than just personal injury and workers' compensation.
Yeah.
And of course, when I first opened my doors, I did take family law and I did take criminal, but I hated it. I did not enjoy it. So the sooner I could get rid of it, the better. And I would say that by 97, 98, my practice was pretty much personal injury and workers' compensation.
Gotcha.
There's a couple of other things I still know how to do, but
You're specialized now.
Yeah.
And you enjoy it.
Was there one major case that just where you're able to not
put me
do
on the
anything,
map?
put you on the map?
I would say there wasn't one major case that put me on the map. I've represented people that have received a lot of money, a lot of benefits, and they deserved every penny they got. But it's difficult. If I started talking about them and the people heard the podcast, they would know exactly who I was talking about. That makes me a little nervous. I haven't cleared it with them.
Yeah, no
but
worries.
you can imagine. My favorite cases, primarily because they're most valuable, are brain injury cases. And you can imagine that a brain injury case has a dramatic impact upon somebody's earning capacity and ability to just even function.
Yeah.
And you need to have patience when you deal with a brain injury case because the person's changed, all right? And you better be patient when you talk to them. You have to explain what's going on, not just a little slower, but more often. And you have to calm them down. And you have to say, don't worry, I'm there for you. Don't worry, we got this.
In the case of a brain injury case, is it usually delayed a lot before things can really get moving because of the fact that they're not able to participate as well? Or I'm just assuming.
And actually, the extent of the injury doesn't show up in the first week.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
If a massive brain injury shows up in the first week, that person's bad.
Yeah.
All right. A lot of brain injuries do not show up on MRI, CT scans, things like that.
Yeah.
Just plain old concussions don't show up on any diagnostic study. If you have a brain injury that shows up on an MRI, such as a portion of your brain is perhaps died, is swollen, or has shifted midline, that's a bad injury.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell people. You don't want the MRI to show your brain injury.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to ask is you can get in a car accident, fender bender, whatever.
You get a concussion.
Can't get a concussion.
Absolutely.
How do you prove this? How do you prove that you had a concussion? If it doesn't show up on an MRI, we all know how sensitive the brain is. It doesn't take a lot to get a concussion and to lose some brain cells.
if you get right down to it, everything in both of the two systems we're talking about is determined by a medical opinion. You need to have a medical opinion in workers' compensation. It might be the primary treating physician. It might be what we call a qualified medical evaluator. It might be what we called an agreed medical evaluator. But we have to have a medical opinion to make a claim for any of the benefits, not just the extent of medical care. Personal injury, we also need a medical doctor to say, yes, this person has had a concussion. And that is typically the person's treating physician. The first doctor, it could be the ER doctor, could be their family physician, but they're the ones that have to do the primary diagnosis. I can't walk into court and say, my client hit her head on the back of the seat and she was a little dizzy for a while and she had to take I'm sure she had a concussion. Right. You can't really do that. Of
course.
You need a doctor to say this.
Opinion.
They do the examination and the eyes don't dilate properly and they can't count backward from 30 and they can't remember this or that and it's like, okay, you have a concussion.
Right, for sure.
So besides wine and dining your clients back in the 90s,
yeah, those were good days.
What else did you do for advertising that you found that worked?
And I really didn't do anything for advertising until about 2008, and because I had the steady workload, and I was very, very happy. I was working the right number of hours. I was making the right amount of income. Going on vacation, hanging out with my wife, staying at home. My son was born in 2000. My daughter was born in 2002. Wanted to spend time with them. It was really good. But then, if you recall, that was the subprime crash 2008, and it affected my practice. And so initially I joined a networking group. I don't feel like giving them any free advertising, but I still have good friends there.
Yeah,
and I still get
tell us
referrals.
off camera.
Yeah. And then I paid X amount of money a month for an organization that advertised on TV or the internet. You need an attorney, you were in an accident, call 800 blah, blah, blah. Right?
They'd send you leads.
They'd send me leads.
Yeah.
And those were, as I said, very hit and miss. Since 2008, I would say I have had at least 4 of those organizations, and I don't know why they peter out, but they do, and so you got to get rid of them.
Yeah.
And of course, one of them, it didn't take long to realize that was a mistake.
Which one?
I know.
Tell us off camera.
I'll tell you after.
So one reason why things peter out is because the strategy doesn't change. The temperature of how people consume the content back then, it was TV content, internet content. The environment changes, and if you don't change with the environment, change the strategy behind the advertising. Like for instance, everyone used to watch TV. TV ads worked. Eventually, around, you're saying 2008.
No, yes, this is when I started the advertising in 2008.
So,
but I understand exactly what you're saying.
2012, people
are
got
streaming and
people got phones, Facebook.
how people find attorneys has changed. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Exactly. When I first started, it was the phone book.
Right.
Okay.
What's that?
Yeah, what's that? The best source to find an attorney is somebody you know. It's not the internet. It's not the television. It's not your phone. If you pick an attorney using your phone or the internet, all you're doing is picking an attorney that spent a lot of money advertising. Okay? Yet it does not guarantee quality. Your best source of getting a good attorney is somebody who has used a good attorney.
Exactly. Referral base is always the strongest advertising.
And your friends aren't going to lie to you. Your relatives aren't going to lie to you.
Right, they're going to want to give you a good recommendation.
That's right.
They're
So if you, and for from 1990 to 2008, most of my clients were either repeat or relatives or friends of former clients.
Yeah, there's a lot of attorneys that run their whole firm consistently off of referrals. It's just I feel like the ones that are really trying to grow and blow up and become like a Morgan and Morgan. And it's just like da 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 da. But then there's give and take and all that. Like you said, you had a lifestyle that you were enjoying. And so how did you I guess mitigate that after the crash in 2008? Did it ever get back to how it was pre 2008?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. What do you attest that to, I guess?
The experience, having represented more and more people over time.
Yeah.
My still to this day, the best source of clients, referrals are former clients.
Yeah.
To this day. So the more more former clients I have,
Yeah.
you know, the
Absolutely.
more private network I have.
Yeah, definitely.
Real quick, why did business tank during 2008?
During the prime, subprime, you know, I don't know. Why it affected my area of law, I don't know. But I certainly, a lot of people lost the value, the equity in their home. Their second line of credit disappeared. They were upside down. You know, I'm not entirely sure why it impacted.
Do you think maybe it's because I guess mortgage companies, insurance companies, were they under a lot more pressure because of what was going on and weren't dishing out cash?
You know, you make a very good point.
Yeah.
A very good point. There are times the economy does impact how tight the purse strings are with the insurance company.
Yeah.
When everything's going really, really well, the insurance company are more willing to pay. When their investments are not doing well, they are harder to get money out of.
Yeah.
And that was a very good point. Real true point.
So do you think we're gonna see a second wave of that now, where we're predicted to enter a really bad recession? Well, it depends on who you ask.
I mean, if you're listen, it's not my area of specialty, but we're not going to get a recession. The insurance companies are making so much money.
So much money.
Can I tell you something?
Should be criminal.
If insurance companies did what they say they would do,
Yeah.
I'd be in a different line of law.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the insurance company their job is to take your money, and then when you actually need them, they're like,
Give you money.
no, we don't think we want to give you the money.
Insurance companies are not in the business of paying claims. They're in the business of investing premiums.
All right.
That's what they do.
They take your money and invest it.
And invest it, and you know, if it wasn't for state governments, Department of Insurance, other departments, they would never pay a penny.
Yeah.
The insurance code could fill this wall. I mean, it was all written to make insurance companies do what they said they were going to do in the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think you ever deal with the client who's maybe humble, they get in a wreck, they get injured, but maybe they are of good value, and they're like I'm all right. Yeah, my leg broke, but I don't really want to go after the insurance company.
Yes, and you know what? They're good people. There are some that are simply humble and don't want. Those are the ones that don't really want to be injured, and their injuries are less significant if they don't think about them. Okay, they make very, very good clients. There are the ones that have been brainwashed by insurance companies, by political figures that have said attorneys are bad, that lawsuits are bad. You know, the insurance companies and corporations spend billions of dollars spinning, streaming, telling the public that attorneys are bad. Attorneys aren't bad. If they just did what they said they would do,
Right.
there wouldn't be this many attorneys.
That's true. So why would somebody in that case reach out to you if they didn't necessarily want to? I mean, in the example that you gave, like, why would they ask for your services?
Most people that I talk to are not insurance adjusters, examiners, or employees of insurance companies. They have no idea what their case is worth, how bad their injury, the value, and they're going up against an adjuster, an examiner, that does it 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, 8 out. That's what they do day in and day out. Does that sound fair? And so if they figure out they don't know what they're doing, they come and talk to me.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
And a lot of people, you know, there are 4 benefits in workers' comp. They're benefits, all right? It's a no-fault system. They're supposed to be delivered to them. But they don't know, when an insurance company says, oh no, we've given you all you're entitled to, based upon Dr. So-and-so, they don't know that Dr. So-and-so has been working for that insurance company for 30 years. They don't know if that's a truthful opinion. They don't know if that's the maximum amount of benefit. And a lot of these people, they don't go back to their job. Okay, and suffering an injury on the job or suffering the injury in a motor vehicle accident doesn't guarantee you gotta have a job when you get healthy enough to go back to work.
Right.
You know, it's sort of messed up a little bit. So like my pops, back actually in 1990, he was working for a moving company, and the driver was backing up
Okay.
and didn't pay attention and crushed his hip. And he had to get a new hip. Couldn't walk for like 6 months to a year, or whatever. He fought it, and all they did was by the time they settled the case, he was already like healed up enough to start working again. And they said, "Well, you're good to work again. We'll just pay your medical coverage, and that's it." Gave him no extra benefits,
No lost wages.
no
or
lost
anything?
wages.
I hear
nothing.
I hear stories like that, once a month. I need to know more to determine whether I could have helped that person. But you know what? I could have helped. I
Yeah.
could have helped your dad.
Yeah.
What you said it was your dad, right?
Yeah. Could you help him now? Can we go back?
Nah.
Can we sue them now?
Yeah, I could have helped.
Yeah. But he's one of those guys. He's one of those good guys too, though. Like, he doesn't believe in suing people.
Right.
Like, he could have.
Demeanor.
Like,
Well, okay, I'm going to come back to something. Okay, one, you aren't suing your employer when you file a workers' compensation claim. Okay, you're filing an administrative claim for benefits. You are not suing your employer. All right. Well, of course, if whoever was backing up that truck, if that was not a co-employee working for the same company,
it was his boss.
it was his boss, well, then it's not a personal injury case. I mean, that's solely in the workers' compensation arena. You can't sue your boss or your employer for negligence, all right? So you're stuck it's called the exclusivity or the exclusive remedy, all right? You are in workers' comp. But if that had been an employee of another company, the truck driver, you could have sued the truck driver and the company, right? And that's what I talk about when I say there's nobody better in this town that handles those combination cases, a personal injury and a workers' compensation that are combined. I have a pretty good idea what your father went through, and I think I could have helped him. But I hear a story like that once a month.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's why we got to get you out there. People need to know
They need to
about
know
you.
this.
You know what they can. I will talk to them free for. I say that it's a half-hour consultation.
Yeah.
It always takes longer.
I'm on the. Particularly if I'm interested in the case, I'll talk to them as long as I have to. Right.
Steak dinner.
But honestly, I'll know within 5 minutes whether it's a good case or not.
Yeah.
And I'll also by that point have known whether I would be compatible with that person.
Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Do you only take on big cases? Do you take on little cases?
I do enough free legal work by accident that I don't do it. I wouldn't intentionally take a case I know I'm not going to get paid on. But if you're a friend of mine, if you're a relative of a client, if you're referred by a friend, I'm willing to take a case. If I like the person and they're being screwed,
Yeah.
I'm likely to take the case.
Okay.
Passionate about the situation.
Yeah.
And
If they are currently represented by a bad attorney, I'm more likely to take the case.
Gotcha.
Have you ever gotten clients who originally went to, let's say, one of the big attorneys in town, and they came to you and just like, yo, this big name just ain't doing it?
Well, we know who they are. In our community is not very big.
Yeah.
We know which attorneys don't do a very good job. And, it isn't necessarily that...
Who are they? No, joking. Don't say it.
There are certain attorneys in this town, not very many, that I will bend or break my rules taking cases from attorneys because that person's not... I know for a fact they're not getting good representation.
Right.
But,
That's crazy.
But then, I also know that there's a number of great attorneys in this town, and the biggest complaint somebody will have that calls me that already has an attorney is that the attorney isn't communicating with them. And the State Bar of California will tell you that the biggest complaint people have is that their attorney is not talking to them. So communication is really, really important. So if I respect the attorney, if I know the attorney, I will tell the client, you're represented by a very good attorney. You need to find a way. There's any number of reasons why maybe that attorney's not talking to you right now, but, give them a chance. And what I will tell them is I said, listen, call, leave a message, say, I need to talk to you. Follow it up with an email. Follow it up with a written first-class letter, all right? And say, if you don't get back to me by Friday, whatever, give them 5 days, report them to the bar. And if you get reported to the bar, you're on the phone to that client.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you just say at the end of every voicemail, or I'll report you to the bar?
No, well, first of all, then it becomes an empty threat.
Right.
Look forward to hearing from you.
But you have
Time is ticking.
You have to do certain steps. At least in my opinion, you have to do certain steps to give that attorney a chance, because life is life. You don't know if COVID, somebody at his office quit and he's short-staffed or she's short-staffed. So you follow up, but there's nothing more important than sending that letter that says, I've been trying to reach you. Here's what I want to ask you. Here's what I want to know. If I don't get a response by X date, I'll contact the bar.
Yeah, I think that's so applicable to every industry. You pay somebody or you're doing business with somebody, and then all of a sudden they ghost you. You just can't get a hold of them. Then you're feeling abandoned. You're feeling like, what is going on? And especially if you paid somebody initially up front, then that's a lot. And then you're dealing with people whose lives are basically on the line.
And let me just qualify what it is. In both of the types of law I practice, people don't pay me money up front.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So, but you're exactly right.
Yeah.
But I also believe you have to give them a chance. You don't, if they're ghosting you, you don't know why.
Right.
There may be other issues going on. That person might be in the hospital.
So how do you, it seems simple in my mind to get back to people, but what do you think are one of the main reasons why these other attorneys aren't getting back? Like, is it because their caseload is so massive, or they just don't care that much?
There's every reason you can think of.
Yeah.
But with certain firms, and they're known in our community, they are known for not returning calls. They're known for not doing communication. And they have so many clients, they don't really care if that particular one leaves, all right? But then there are also the clients that call every day, all right? But those aren't the ones we're talking about.
Two sides. No.
Yeah. There's two sides. There are clients that call every day.
Yeah.
And there are clients that don't like what you said yesterday, so they're hoping you'll say something different today.
Yeah, that's true.
That's frustrating.
Yeah, because there's actually I actually spoke to somebody a while ago. He's not an attorney, but he actually has an app. I'm kind of cheap plugging his service.
Okay.
But it's actually really cool. He has an app called Record, and it basically helps. He partners with law firms, and it puts every person's case into the app specifically, and it allows the attorney or whoever's working on the case to consistently update it.
Okay.
And it also allows them to every single one of their doctor's appointments is listed, so you have a history of everything right there. And it also allows the attorney to just pop on, read, have a summary of the case because of AI, and then click a button, and then they can shoot a video, say, hey, what's up, John? Just checking in, reviewing your case. Looks like we haven't heard back from such and such yet, but I just want to let you know I'm thinking about you, Click, and it sends to them.
That sounds like a great app.
Yeah.
My only concern with it would be whether it's hackable or whether it could release. It sounds like it has confidential information on it.
Yeah, I'm sure they have to apply with, like, I don't know if it's HIPAA or these other things, but like
a number
to protect
the It's not just HIPAA that attorneys have to be concerned about, but yes, the HIPAA laws require confidentiality. But every client I have has a right of confidentiality because I'm an attorney and I can't reveal information.
For
but
sure.
if I had that app, I would use it as best I could, but I guarantee there would still be times when I didn't have time to send that message. But it sounds like a great thing to have.
Yeah. Awesome. I'll let them know.
But you may have noticed that I don't plug. I go like, I'm not going to plug people.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm not going to say who that was.
Don't worry, I'll do the cheap plugs.
It's so easy to become busy, and many of our clients, we know firsthand, they work 8 days a week, 25 hours a day.
I try not to.
That's why I wanted to ask you, how do you have that balance? How do you balance having time for yourself, time for your family, and then also thriving in your business?
Well, the thriving part is the real difficult part. My practice ebbs and flows. Sometimes, I'll tell you this, I never work harder than when I'm not making money. When I'm not making money, I'm working all my cases.
Right.
When I have cases that are resolving for a lot of money, there's no stress. It's a great life, right? I don't work as many hours. I spend more time at home or doing things. Yeah, I've been doing it for 37 years. I've reached a certain level of balance, as you said. But it ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
There's no constant.
Yeah. Speaking of that balance, it's 4:30 p.m. on a Friday, and I send you an email.
Yes, you
and
did.
You're not responding because you're doing what? Tell us what you do in your free time.
You know what? I might just be going home.
Yeah.
But
Bro, I'm in the car.
yeah. But I would love to be golfing Friday afternoon. I'd love to be down at the Bay Friday afternoon. I would love to be hanging out with my wife Friday afternoon, hanging out with my kids Friday afternoon, doing something.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah, anything.
Yeah.
Or as I could be at my desk at 4:30 Friday, but I may not have the answer to that email, and
Right.
I forgot about it Monday morning.
For
All right?
sure.
Yeah.
Where do you like to golf?
Oh, there's a lot of good courses in San
Of
Diego.
course.
No, there are.
Yeah.
Listen, if I go golfing on a Friday afternoon, my office is in Mission Valley right now.
Do you go to Riverwalk? Do you just
I
shoot over to
used to
Riverwalk?
really like Riverwalk. I still like Riverwalk on a Friday. But Admiral Baker might be my go-to because it's got 2 courses. It's
Yeah.
easier to get on.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's always that course that you want to just get a quick one in real fast, maybe even a quick 9 if you only got time for that. But
I hate 9.
Yeah,
I hate just doing 9.
Yeah, my dad and I would always we would hit 9 at Coronado super fast because I was always the one limiting the time. I was like, I only got time for 9. And he would do like 3 rounds in a row.
I can see that. You know, listen,
Yeah.
I think my favorite course in San Diego is Madeiras, but I like Woodson a lot too.
Woodson, yeah. I've golfed there once, but yeah.
At Woodson?
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to need to know the course.
Yeah, I know.
But the great thing about Woodson is you can get out there at 6 a.m. and get in. You can be done by 9:30.
Yeah. Currently have 2.5 children, so I can't do that anymore.
Well, good for you. Congratulations. No, I'd rather. You know what? When my kids were younger, I would rather have played with my kids than devote 5 hours to golf.
Right, exactly. It makes it tough. It's almost like no matter how much preparation you give your wife or your lady about the golf, doesn't matter how many days in advance, there's still an argument every single time. It just takes so long, and it's just like, you're not done yet? You need to come home.
You know, that is, well, one, my wife does not complain about me golfing.
Right,
but,
that's good.
She thinks I should go play Mission Bay, but, you know,
Yeah,
because we
right.
live near
That'll
Mission
take
Bay,
you
yeah.
an hour.
You can walk it.
That's the only one.
You need 2 clubs, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what makes you the best? What makes you better than the competitors, your
Oh,
competition?
you know, listen, I could be modest, but that's
Please
not
don't
really the
be.
point.
Let's
I may not be the smartest person in the room right now, but I am often the smartest person in the room. I've also been doing it for 37 years. That's a pretty good combination. I'm also very ethical. I'm also very honorable. I was raised that if you hire me, I will do my best job for you. So when you throw those factors together, I'm a good attorney.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just get the vibe from you right now that you take this very seriously, and I feel like you're gonna do things the right way. And not only that, I feel like you're gonna get me the most money that is owed to me.
that
That
I
is owed to
deserve.
me ethically.
Well, as a reminder, the more you get, the more I get.
Yeah.
That's a good incentive
For sure.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, that's part of the advertising you see, right? Do you find that the bigger the settlement, like some settlements, I've seen some obscene settlements, you find that the bigger the settlement, the longer it takes to actually get it?
Not always.
Not always?
No. It's not a horrible rule of thumb, but it's not. There are a lot of exceptions to it.
Yeah.
You know, it depends on the injury. If the person's horribly injured and the insurance is at a certain limit, even if it's a commercial policy, so you have a $1 million policy, there is incentive for an insurance company to get that case over with if it's worth more than $1 million.
Right.
Right.
And these are being decided by juries a lot, mostly, right? Or
No.
sometimes?
No. You know, I would say less than 5% of civil cases go to trial.
Yeah.
And there might be a slightly higher percentage in workers' compensation because it's administrative and there are more issues that can go to trial more quickly. But 95% of the civil cases, the ones down at the courthouse is what, 3 blocks away?
Yeah.
They don't go to trial.
Gotcha.
Well,
It's very expensive to try a case.
oh yeah, go on.
Oh, yeah, listen, a personal injury case, a simple auto accident case, you're going to need potentially to pay 3 or 4 doctors. All right, medical reports are not admissible. You have to bring the doctor in. Doctors are not cheap, and so if you have more than one, if you have one doctor, it might be $10,000. If you have an accident reconstructionist, it might be another $10,000.
Yeah.
If there's a tremendous claim for loss of earnings and future loss of earnings, you need a forensic accountant. They can cost another $10,000.
I mean, I can imagine that's why it's difficult to go out on your own as a personal injury attorney
It is.
because
It
of all
was.
the upfront costs.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's because you had a lot of client base previously going into it from in other areas as well. Like with those other areas like family law, like that, you're getting paid a retainer.
I would like to tell you I was, but
Yeah.
you know.
But I'm sure it was hard though. So were you ever at a point where you were like, man, I got this case, but it is like really expensive and you're dishing out all this cash before you saw the actual settlement come in?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Fewer and fewer as I get older and more experienced.
Yeah.
There were times when I was, but this is not recently,
Yeah.
but
I'm
in
sure
the
in the
90s, in the
beginning.
beginning.
Yeah.
There were times when I was concerned about paying for a lot of opinions, expert opinions, for a case that might not win. Yeah, sure.
If you ever need an opinion, though, I'll give you mine. You could just
For
we got
less
our
than
rates.
10 grand, I can get you for
I'll
5.
I'll undercut for sure.
You take the other 5 and give me 2 grand.
He'll have a different opinion, so that's why you'll have 2 good ones.
Now you have 2 opinions.
Yeah,
But no, actually, your opinions better match. Okay?
they'll be complimentary.
There we go. Thank you. Yeah, that's right.
What was if you can disclose it, what was the biggest settlement that you've ever had?
Over $2 million.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And-
Wow, what was it? What was it for?
Well, that was actually a workers' compensation case. Something that maybe the public doesn't know is a workers' compensation case is often more valuable than a personal injury case for a number of reasons. Personal injury, when we talk about personal injury, we talk about damages. There are special damages, which are those that you can actually put a dollar figure on: loss of earnings, medical bills, property damage, and general damages. And general damages are a nebulous concept. You've heard the expression pain and suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's part of general damages, which is very difficult to put a dollar figure on.
Right.
In workers' compensation, we talk about benefits, all right? And they are medical care. They are temporary disability, which is money paid to you while you're unable to work and the doctor says you're still recovering. And if you don't have a complete recovery, the doctor says, you know, you're as good as you're going to get, but you have this impairment. Well, we translate the phrase impairment into California permanent disability, money. And there's something called a voucher. The voucher is to help people that can't go back to their job. And it's supposed to help them with retraining, but it's hard to call it a full benefit. You know, it's really not that valuable. But in personal injury, you walk in, let's say you're in front of the jury, and you don't get, the jury will give you a number, okay? And that number's locked in. You can't come back years later and say, oh, we really underestimated this number, right? It should have been a lot higher. Whereas in work comp, you can leave your future medical care open for the rest of your life, all right? And if you resolve the permanent disability aspect of your case, you have until the 5th year anniversary. You have 5 years from the date of injury to reopen that award of permanent disability to allege new and further.
Because the injury may be changing and evolving.
Because the injury may be changing and evolving, but in a jury trial, you get a verdict, and that verdict is basically chiseled in stone if it doesn't get appealed, if you will. You don't get to go back and say, 5 years later, it was worse than we thought.
Gotcha. Interesting. So are the general damages usually the area that ends up making some of the settlements like crazy?
No, it's actually okay, so there is no absolute general rule, but the general rule is these very large verdicts,
Yeah.
it's actually the special damages in the future that make them a higher number. Like I said, you bring in a forensic accountant and you say that this person's going to lose $10,000 a year in earnings over their life remainder, and that person's only 40.
Right.
That's how you get the number up there.
Wow.
The person is going to need $10,000 worth of medical care every year for the rest of their life. That is where some of the verdicts, some of the determination are very high.
Gotcha.
What about like, so workers' compensation, you can only have that if it's a legitimate business. Let's say, like
an insured, an employer.
an employer. So what would happen if, let's say, you're working, I guess, for a not legit business,
Under the table,
under
cash,
the table business, maybe it's like construction or whatever it is.
Shocking. I'm shocked to hear that some employers might not be insured.
Right.
There's something called the Uninsured Employers Fund. Okay, a portion of every employer's premium in the state of California goes to the Uninsured Employers Fund, and that is to cover people that are injured on the job and the employer is not insured. But that is hard to do because it is swamped.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it happens a lot.
That's a bureaucratic nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there something, I remember when I used to do construction way a long time ago, we used to have a joke. If you fall off the ladder, you're fired before you hit the ground.
Well, and actually that mentality still permeates the construction business and a lot of businesses. And so a lot of people are afraid to report their injury.
Right. Then they lose a job.
Yeah. But, an employer cannot discriminate against an employee for reporting an injury or having an injury. But that is also somewhat toothless. It's
Yeah.
Labor Code Section 132A. And it's the most common form of discrimination by an employer is termination, but they're very difficult to prove. And one of the remedies is you get your job back. Do you really want to go back to work for that employer that fired you for that reason? Can you imagine going back to work and being there day to day? That's not going to be a very friendly environment.
Hey, you remember when I sued you?
Yeah.
The workers' comp case is not a lawsuit; it's an administrative claim.
So why is it so that is said, it's like you're not suing the employer. You're
Most of the time,
you're
it's
getting
a claim. It's a claim against an insurance company.
it's a claim against an insurance company, but yet there's still such a negative connotation to the employer. Like,
Are they negatively affected as the employer?
yeah, do they have to
Does
pay
the
more?
workers'
Does their
comp?
premium go up?
Yeah.
Like, why is there? It's like, why can't as an employer just be like, oh, you're good, man, just sue my insurance company?
Or they should pay out.
Well, an employer that pays workers' compensation should report. I mean, the laws require them to report any injury. All right, and if an employer thinks that you may have suffered an injury, they're obligated to tell you that, oh, here's my workers' compensation. Fill this form out. Talk to these people. Go see a doctor. The impact upon an employer that has too many claims is their premiums go up. Their modifier increases.
Got it.
And the modifier is a number. Most workers' compensation, in fact, all workers' compensation, insurance is based upon your payroll, and it's actually based upon your future payroll, your projected payroll, and they always come back. The insurance companies always come back at the end of the payroll year and adjust what it should have been. Okay, but you report your payroll, and they take a look at the job types that you have, like a secretary or a clerk or a roofer or a tree trimmer, whatever. And that category has a modifier.
It's like a risk
A
assessment.
risk, it is a risk, it's exactly what it is.
Okay.
And so they take a look at what your payroll is for that particular job, and they say, okay, that's what your work comp's gonna be. The riskier the job, the higher you pay, and if you have a lot of claims, then maybe you're not that good of an employer.
You have an unsafe work environment.
Might be, yeah.
We need to call OSHA.
Well, there's that too.
Yeah.
But so yes, too many claims, and it'll increase the premium.
Okay.
But that's really the only injury, if you will, to the employer, and the loss of that person working.
Right.
It's kind of like car
and
insurance.
I guess also too, like, what would make an employee maybe be hesitant against doing that
I talk to people at least once a month that say my employer is complaining about this. It says it's going to increase their workers' comp.
Yeah, just take a lap, rub some dirt on it.
Rub some dirt on it. Now, go to my friend down the street. He's a combination chiropractor, therapist, acupuncturist, holistic.
Yeah.
Oh, why is he in a gas station?
Just take the rest of the weekend off. You're good.
You know, it's surprising how often they're told not to take the day off. But, okay.
Wow.
Oh wow, not even walk it off or anything.
So your scenarios are funnier than his scenarios.
Why?
Because you got people falling off roofs. I know.
I was just thinking about personal experience.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Like I even had my employer, which was under the table, by the way. He had one of his employees. Like his employee was like a crackhead. And
oh, really? What do you think? What do you really think?
And you know, he did he was up all night for however many nights. They had a job. And he pretty much was like, "Oh man, I'm not gonna show up to work today.
That sounds like a crackhead. Yeah, I get it.
And he's like, I'm outside your door right now. Get in the truck. We're going to work, right? Well, he went to work, ended up chopping his hand off.
Whoa.
Maybe he shouldn't have gone to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally.
Exactly.
That's horrible. Yeah.
So that's why maybe like I have heard some stories. Maybe not as many stories as you have.
Well, let me ask you something. Who would you blame on that? Would you blame the employer that showed up at the door and made him work, or would you blame the person that was on crack?
The person on crack. The person on crack.
It depends on the communication, though. Like, what if I'm unfit to work today?
The person on crack said he didn't want to go in.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I can see it from both perspectives. Like you gotta get the job done. Like if you're gonna be on drugs, handle them.
That's one way of looking at it.
You know what?
Handle your drugs better.
I'm a big believer in ultimate responsibility.
Yeah.
So whether something goes right or wrong, it's ultimately your responsibility, your fault. So it is the employer's fault because he should have never hired a crackhead.
Or showed up at the door and made the crackhead go to work. Okay, but as I said, if you're on the job in California for an employer that's insured, it's a no-fault system. If you're injured, you're entitled to benefits unless you are intoxicated, the initial aggressor in a fight, or you did it intentionally. And the crackhead might have been intoxicated.
Right.
Oh, so you could be at no fault. Like it's not my fault. He was on crack.
Well,
Fault because he's intoxicated.
The workers' compensation system is a no-fault system. All right, as long as you're not intoxicated and you're injured, as long as you're not the initial aggressor in a fight, you can be in a fight, but you didn't start it. Okay,
Yeah.
If somebody hauls off and hits you, you're injured on the job, right? You're not the initial aggressor.
What
in
if
a
you
fight.
instigated it though?
The initial aggressor in a fight can't make a claim for his broken hand.
So you don't get workers' comp if it's your fault.
Right.
Right. If you're
Right.
at fault, you're not entitled to workers' comp.
Got you. Got you.
Or if you did it intentionally, yeah.
Got you. So
Right.
we drug testing everybody.
Well, there's a good question. What's intoxicated? Is somebody that has marijuana in their system from concert Friday night and they show up Monday morning, it's still in their system? Are they intoxicated?
That's a hard
Legal
one.
limits. I mean, whatever the legal limits are at the time.
What is the legal limit for marijuana?
I don't know if there is.
I
Is
don't
there
think-
one?
No.
You
Well,
can't test like a percentage, or is it blood percentage? I mean, you can't really test
So
that.
like I'm
How strong is it in their system?
Yeah.
right?
What type of weed did you smoke?
I'm sort of a believer in like I know some very like highly capable people, right? And I know some people who actually work better when they're high. Very few people, maybe like 1 out of 1,000 people.
I
are
know
like
a
this.
lot of people that say they work better when they're high.
I think they do.
But I know for a fact whether like you drink a beer or it doesn't matter how well you act while you drink or how well you act when you're high, you are at a lower caliber. You are not performing at 100% cognitively.
Well, the phrase intoxicated has been litigated, okay? Because you can have something in your system and not be intoxicated.
Right.
So
it's a little bit of a gray area there. I
So
guess.
what is the
it's litigated. It's a gray area.
it's a case by case.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy with alcohol. There's a legal limit that you can't drive, and if and if you test at 0.08, you will have a really hard time arguing you weren't intoxicated.
Right.
What about sleep
Deprivation?
deprivation? Like they've done studies where if you're X amount of hours sleep deprived, you're as good as drunk.
Yeah, I think if you have not slept for 24 hours, it's the equivalent of being the 0.08 limit, something like that. Well, you're not intoxicated. You just haven't slept.
Right.
And the statute says intoxication.
Oh, okay.
So you can't necessarily be at fault as much. I mean,
You'd be entitled, if you haven't slept for 24 hours, you get injured, you're not at fault. You're,
yeah. Especially if the employer makes you work.
yes, but I was going to say that, but that's often not the situation. Let's say you're coming back from vacation, you flew back all night, you're super tired, you're not intoxicated, and you're injured on the job, you're entitled to benefits, yeah.
Cool. Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. Learn a lot right now.
Love learning.
You know what's funny is because we're as business owners, I always like to get both sides of the story.
Yeah.
Well, you have employees.
Yeah.
So, be aware. Listen, employees have an obligation to you, but you have an obligation to your employees. The easiest thing you can do is be insured, okay? Do what the law says you have to do to your employees, and if you have a bad employee, follow the proper procedures, and you can terminate that employee.
So pretty much, don't make a crackhead coming into work.
That's good advice.
Don't hire-
That is good legal advice right there.
Don't hire a crackhead. Also.
And don't hire a non-crackhead and have such a bad job or stress that it becomes a crackhead.
Right.
So,
Exactly. Literally. Wall Street.
Oh man, that's so. Do you have any interesting stories like that?
Oh, I've represented drug addicts. Yes, if that's what you're asking. Yes, we've had that. We've had that litigation happen.
Anything notable you're allowed to mention?
I've never lost. I've never had somebody not get benefits because a judge thought they were intoxicated. Oh, but keep in mind, all right. So if somebody walks into my office and they walk in and the employer had sent them out for a drug test on the date of the accident, and they walk in and show me that their blood alcohol level was 0.2, I'm not going to take the case. I'm going to tell them, it's not a winner. I can't help you. But it's not as clear cut with other drugs because there aren't these legal limits that are chiseled in stone.
Right.
I've had people walk into my office and I've represented people that had illicit drugs in their system, but I've never lost on the intoxication argument.
That's such a badass statement. Well, I've never lost. Yo, you are. If I ever need you, you are hired, man. That's how I want my lawyer talking.
I didn't take the cases I knew we were going to lose.
Right.
That's part of it.
Yeah, you're
being
smart
selective.
enough to know. Did you ever, when you were first starting off, you come off as a very, very intelligent guy.
You too, by the way. Like I said, I don't know if I'm the most intelligent person in this room, but I often am.
We have a test we'll do after.
Yeah, we'll do a test. Yeah, we'll do a spin.
I got chess.
Yeah,
So, anyway, oh man, I lost my point for a second. And when you first started off,
I think you were going to ask me about have people walked in where I found out later on that maybe they weren't legit.
have you took some did you have to learn some lessons on the way? Did you have to
I can
bump your knee
distinctly,
a few times?
Yes. And I can distinctly remember 2 cases where I simply said, "You're fraudulent. Here's your file. Go away. I'm done handling your case." Okay. There may be others. There may have been people I represented that I didn't know they were perpetrating a fraud. It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
But when it's clear cut, just end representation. Just end the case right there. It's not worth going forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Cut your loss.
So yes, I can distinctly remember the 2 cases where I handed back the file.
Right. And yeah, because when you're young and you're hungry, sometimes maybe you didn't know, but sometimes it's a case not going good, and you're just like, I gotta feed my family. I gotta.
Well, no. Actually, I can tell you, in both of the situations,
Not in a fraudulent case.
In both of the situations I'm thinking of, the insurance companies had sent out investigators who had videotaped the person engaging in activity that they should not have engaged in. Okay? And that's how I found out. The insurance companies often have to turn over that, what's called sub rosa. Okay? And when it's turned over to me and I'm looking at it, I'm going, this guy's a fraud. And one was a male, one was a female. But the video you can't dispute. And I just said, I can't represent you. You told me you weren't doing things like that. The gentleman was walking out of Home Depot with 2 bags of cement on his shoulders, carrying them out to his car. His response was, "Oh, those aren't heavy."
That wasn't me.
No. He acknowledged it was him. He just said, "Oh, that's not heavy."
Yeah.
And that I decided that it was heavy, and I didn't want to represent that person anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Because now we're in like going back on advertising. We're in 2023, and you've done all types of ad campaigns, TV.
I'm not on Twitter. I'm not or X. I'm not on Instagram. What am I on? I'm not on Instagram.
You're on
He's
Instagram?
on Instagram. Yeah.
I don't like social media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many TikToks a day do you make?
Yeah,
How many
can we
dances have you
include
done?
that? I hate to say it, but I'm an old dog.
Right.
I understand that maybe I should change, but I just don't like social media. And it's a bad way to pick an attorney. All you're doing is picking an attorney based upon their presence on social media.
Right.
That is not how you should pick a good attorney.
But I would argue, because just from talking, I'm gonna. Let's argue. Now, joking. But I would argue that you are a good attorney. So why, if you were on social media and you were getting cases that way, it wouldn't be a bad thing, because you are a good attorney and you're on social media.
Maybe that's why I'm sitting here.
I mean, there's a lot of...
You're sitting in the right seat, by the way.
So there's a problem. Obviously, there's a lot of like bad advertising out there that are usually coming from, I guess, more sleazy advertise-based attorneys. But there's a lot of attorneys out there that are all over the country, that are also really just putting out their information that they know and their experience that they know, kind of just garnering trust from people and showing what they're capable of. And you can position yourself in ways just like we are right now in this conversation.
Yeah, I
We're
agree.
learning from you. And if I was just viewing this, just like people will be viewing this, hearing you talk, I'm like, oh, just like this guy is smart. This guy's really good. Wow, look at this experience he has. It's no different than maybe seeing an ad or reading something, but it's actually positioned in a more natural way.
Without looking sleazy.
Without looking sleazy, because you're just talking being you.
I understand.
Yeah.
And I may be an old dog, but I am trying to learn new tricks.
Right.
Yeah. No, I get exactly what you're saying.
And also, like, I don't see you actually handling your social media.
Right.
Are you, for personal reasons, do you consume social media?
I don't like social media.
Yeah, so probably not.
We agree.
Yeah.
We don't like social media, and that's what we do.
I would have to say the only time I see social media is when one of my kids sticks their phone under my nose.
Right.
Damn, you gotta watch this. Isn't it so
No,
funny?
Yeah.
I do that to my pops.
Yeah.
Don't you watch it? It's so funny, right?
It always starts in the middle and makes no sense. Wait, it's got to
Yeah,
start
wait,
over.
what?
Yeah.
What are they doing?
And you're trying to like restart it and
Restart
everything.
it,
You have to
flip
go
it
through the
over,
whole video.
So, and that's the other thing. It comes back to what I say, what I've said, is do not use social media or the internet as a source to acquire an attorney. Because if you do, all you've done is picked an attorney that has a good presence on that medium.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Rely upon friends, families, people that have used an attorney in that field.
Right.
They'll tell you.
Right.
And what we see a lot too is that because of certain people's social media presence, that the referrals actually are expanded because they're able to share it. They're able to say, hey, I worked with this guy. You look at a lot of comments like, you did such an amazing job for me. Thank you so much. Other people see that. Maybe they contact that person, get referrals. So you're actually getting referrals from people you don't know because you're seeing something what they call a social proof.
But it started with somebody that knew you.
Right.
But it could be people that, if I came across you on social media, and I didn't know you.
You probably wouldn't, but
Right, exactly. Let's just say you were a big TikToker. No.
Okay.
And I didn't know you, and I saw you post something. I'm the type of person that most people like to verify other people's opinions by reading the comments, right? So I'm reading the comments, and I'm seeing, sometimes you see like, this guy sucks, he never paid me out, da da da. You see all kinds of stuff.
He wouldn't return my calls.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's like almost the same thing as going on Amazon to buy a product and you see all these reviews, or on Yelp, right?
It's a very good point.
Social proof. But then you have the other side where it's like, you are amazing, da 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 da, and like you see all these other amazing content comments, and now I'm getting a little bit more confident in what your capabilities are.
And quite frankly, I'd look silly on social media. Okay, I don't
You don't
have
look silly
I don't
right
have the
now.
I don't have the energy vibe, and I'd get it wrong. I'd fall over, break my ankle. Okay?
We don't think so. But you know what's funny? I love the message, and we agree as well,
Yeah.
because referral based. Like, did somebody I know have experience with you, and were they able to relay that good experience? So I know to choose that attorney. And then you're also telling people, hey, don't just rely on social media. Rely on actual people's referrals. Well, what's funny is, you sort of want to go on social media to tell people that, so
Imagine
they
making
know.
that video.
Don't do it.
That video right there.
Double-edged
Hey,
sword.
don't just
do it.
listen to social media. You need to go talk to people.
Don't do what I say. Do what I do.
Exactly.
Or the other way around. That's right, yeah.
Do what I do
funny.
and what I say.
Stewart, you're a wealth of knowledge. You've been in the industry for a long time.
Too long. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
No, like that's good. Like,
You know
the
what?
perfect amount of
I
time.
like what I do. The practice of law is my favorite part of being an attorney. The rest, not so much. But yeah, so go ahead.
This isn't the question I was going to ask, but this is a question I'm just genuinely curious about. Do you ever see yourself retiring?
Not anytime soon. My daughter is a junior in college, and she wants to keep going beyond just her bachelor's. I enjoy the practice of law, and I'm still able to do it. I'm getting a little worn out by some of the administrative aspects of running a business. Right. I might want to dial back my hours and enjoy it, but I actually do enjoy helping people. I don't have any plans to retire anytime soon because I like what I'm doing.
Right. And do you see yourself building your team out even more? Or
You know,
keeping it the way it
I
is?
think that I've reached that comfort level. I don't really want to expand. I just want to focus on having the same level of cases, same quality of cases. I have my employees. I really, what I said, I was tired of some of the administrative aspects of running a law firm, hiring new employees, training them, finding out that you got it wrong on the day of the hire, right? Yeah. I don't like firing people either.
Are you the main attorney, or do you have?
I'm the
other
only attorney.
Only other attorney. Okay.
I have a secretary and a paralegal.
Yeah. Have you ever had a desire to like bring in somebody under your wing and kind of train them up and become a partner
No,
and take it over? Or something?
I got to tell you, no.
Are any of your kids interested in law or no?
My son, but I don't see it happening.
Come on. What's your son's name?
If I were to ask another attorney what they thought about you, what do you think they would say?
Depends on the attorney. Okay. Yeah. Listen. There's always an attorney on the other side of the case. All right. And you may have noticed that I tend to say exactly what I think, and I have told other attorneys that they're not doing a very good job. Right.
Yeah.
Well, that attorney, if you ask that attorney, might say I'm an a-hole. Okay.
Yeah. But you know what? They need it. Sometimes people need to hear that in order to get it together.
Well, but of course, if I gave you the name of the attorney to contact and ask him how I was, that person would probably say I'm a pretty good guy.
Yeah.
So,
What advice would you give the up and comer, the kid just getting out of school, becoming an attorney? They don't really know where they want to go. Maybe they want to do your
Particular area.
they don't know what
Particular
area
area?
of law they want to go into.
Maybe they want to start their own firm. Maybe they're working for a rinky-dink firm. And they're like, I think I want to start my own firm. What type of advice would you give them?
The main thing I would say is don't do anything that will jeopardize your license. Look at what you've done to become a licensed attorney in the state of California. You've gone through, 4 years of college. You've gone through 3 years of law school, you've studied and passed the bar. Do you really want to take do you want to engage in unethical conduct that might result in a little bit more money this one time, but jeopardize your career as an attorney?
That's actually really
great.
great
That's what I would tell
advice.
them. Yeah.
Because I can see some young attorneys who, and in your particular area of law, it's not easy. There's so much competition. You got ambulance chasers,
Cappers. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
you have there's a
We
have a lot of competition. I could see a young attorney risking their license to make a little bit of money
on
to
this
pay
one case
the
to
San
make
Diego rent.
to make an extra 10 grand on this case
Right.
Yeah.
by doing something that's unethical that the state bar would say we're going to suspend you. Okay, it's not worth it.
What could you tell us what a couple of those things might be?
Well, okay, it might come back to if I had continued to represent that fraudulent client, or if I had found out that I had a fraudulent client, but the insurance company didn't know, or at least I didn't know the insurance company didn't know, and I continued to pursue the case. Yeah, I don't have an example of this, but keep in mind, I cannot put a person on the stand in front of a judge under oath and ask them a question I know they're going to lie to, all right? I can't ask them to do that. I cannot go in front of a judge, even at a conference, not necessarily on the record, and make a material misrepresentation, all right? I am an officer of the court. I took an oath. A lot of attorneys don't take it seriously, and they forget they did it after a number of years. But I took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the state of California and the United States, and the ethical canons say that I cannot misrepresent something to a judge in court, all right? I have been in court where my opponent has made a misrepresentation, okay? Twice a year. And I just think to myself, you got to be kidding, right? I might have gotten off track on what your question was.
No. So do you know what's happening when it's happening? Like
Yes.
always.
Oh,
know.
yes. Oh, yeah. Because I know most of the time the attorney is saying something that either I didn't say or we didn't agree to, okay? Or is saying that my client did something. I know my client better than they do, okay? I know my client didn't do that. The doctor said this. It's like, wait a second. I have that same report. The doctor didn't say that.
Right.
Right? Here, Judge, here's the report.
And so when that happens, what's the statement? Is it objection? Or what is the thing that you say in that moment?
It depends. Sometimes I say absolutely nothing, okay, because it's not worth it. And strangely enough, a lot of times the judge doesn't want to hear it. As soon as I say that's not true, the judge just says, okay.
Yeah.
All right? Puts up their hands and say, okay, we're moving on. I'm not going to get into this he said, she said. And it's like, Judge, it's in the report here.
Yeah.
Okay. I can prove that I didn't do that, or that my client didn't do that, or the doctor didn't say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of insurance defense attorneys, and I'm sure that on my side as well, will say a doctor said something that the doctor didn't say. Well, if I say that to a judge, that's a misrepresentation.
Yeah.
Well, there's almost always a report. And you can almost always look at that report and see what the doctor actually said.
And is that as bad as lying under oath? Is it the same?
If an attorney does it, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not necessarily. I am never under oath in court. Okay, but I cannot make a misrepresentation to the court.
Right.
No.
Disbarred.
Yeah, it's not perjury. You're correct. It's not perjury. It's not a felony, but it's
Right.
grounds for being sanctioned by the bar, and if it's severe enough, being disbarred.
Right. And also reputation is so important.
That's your reputation.
Yeah, you
It's a small community, and we know who makes those misrepresentations. We know who is not ethical.
who is it?
Again,
Watch yourself out there.
Yeah. The list is too long. I can't. Yeah, we'd be here all day.
What did you say? 99% of attorneys make the
1%
the
look
1%
bad?
look bad that are good.
I got to write that down.
Yeah. So much math.
No, because 99% of attorneys make the 1% look bad, meaning
Right.
only 1% of attorneys are
good,
good, and then the 99% make them look bad.
Right. Exactly.
What's funny enough, we've been working with attorneys and interviewing attorneys for so long, and
Do you like
On it-
interviewing attorneys?
Yes.
I love it.
Actually, yes.
You guys are all very smart. But
I know a lot of. I know a lot
things.
that aren't, but I get
Right,
it. Yeah.
but we hear different things, even though it may be different areas. We just hear so many different things, and we literally learn so much every time.
Yeah, you could invite an attorney that's on the other side of what I do,
Right.
and they would
We're
have an
gonna-
entirely different
yeah.
take on it, and we actually might like each other, but we just have different philosophies.
Well, actually, it was funny enough. We were thinking about doing something where we get opposing sides
Head-to-head battle.
and we get to argue points on the podcast.
That's called a debate.
Yeah,
and
that would be very entertaining, wouldn't
it'd
it?
be very entertaining.
So who do you want to go up against?
There's some good attorneys on the other side. There's some good.
And if you have some attorneys on the other side who maybe you could put us in contact and invite onto the podcast,
Sure.
so we
Yeah.
get their side as well.
But you see, the funny thing, absolutely, I understand what you're asking, but from a business or a get yourself out there standpoint, they're not looking to advertise. They work for insurance companies,
Yeah,
right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But it would still be great.
Usually it's the attorney that wants to be on social media,
Right.
wants the clips, like, hey babe, look, I was on a podcast.
Yeah.
You mean an attorney that likes to talk?
Yes, those are our favorite attorneys.
Those, yes. I know a lot of those.
That's funny.
And we've had some really cool, awesome podcasts too, because we have awesome guests.
Yeah, you
It's
got
very-
this is fun. I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch this back and wish I asked you 1,000 questions. And
Yeah,
we'll have to
what's
invite you back on.
What one more thing would you ask? What do you want to know? I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to reveal certain things. But
Well, we're very careful here on the podcast
Yeah.
as well because we don't want to make anyone look bad and we don't want to ruin our reputation. And we have clients on both sides, and we're trying to make everyone look good. So we like to have these conversations afterwards.
you want everybody to look good. The one. I think the biggest takeaway I would say is make sure you hire an attorney that other people have used and will tell you how they are.
Firsthand.
Right? Double check, fact check, rely upon some method that you respect and follow. The San Diego County Bar Association actually has a referral service, okay? And to be in their referral service, you have to have a certain number of years in practice. You need to have a certain number of attorneys that vouch for you. And that's a better method than any other, except if your brother or your father used an attorney and you need the exact same type of attorney, and they said, did a great job for me, why wouldn't you want to go back to that attorney?
Exactly.
Right?
And if I'm looking for an attorney, I want to know. For one, like when you're like, I don't lose, that would sell me. I'd be like, I want to be with the guy who doesn't lose, but it's only because you choose your cases carefully.
When I let's say I represent somebody and the issue does not look good for us, I'll recommend settlement. I'll recommend and still get money. All right, $1 is better than nothing. It's
Exactly
better than
right.
zero.
Exactly.
Okay, but yeah, it's easy not to lose if you vet the case right away.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know who I want to have on the podcast? I want to have a disbarred attorney.
I can give you some names.
Yeah, like someone who got disbarred like in a big way.
Yeah.
Like I would love to have him on the podcast and get.
Tell the story.
And what I would love about that is he would just be able to speak so freely because
Not
he's
worry about any repercussions.
That person actually might be more restrained. That a lot of attorneys that have been disbarred want to become attorneys again. Okay,
Can you?
You can petition the bar to reinstate your license. Absolutely.
Got
But you have to show rehabilitation.
Right.
And rehabilitation isn't overnight. It's not this year, next year.
What a great way to show rehabilitation has been the podcast.
and that is why they will not speak as freely as they would otherwise. Okay. But honestly, I'd be happy after off the record to give you some names of attorneys disbarred attorneys that would love to talk.
Oh, that'd be
great.
amazing.
Yeah, you know what? A lot of them are good guys, and you might be surprised that they were that unethical that they got disbarred.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll be interested in hearing some of the stories.
You can
I wonder-
believe it or not, if you go to the state bar website and you look up that attorney, it is that has been disbarred, not like that. The disciplinary hearing paperwork, the disbarment paperwork, is available to the public.
Public
Oh,
record.
wow.
Yeah, so you can read why.
Yeah,
Can we
I'm
just
gonna
type in
do some
disbarred
research.
employees? And
Oh,
disbarred
you could do
attorneys,
that too. You
and
could
then-
type in disbarred attorneys, and you'd eventually end up where you could read the court paperwork. There's a state bar court.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's where you would litigate the issue of whether the person should be disbarred or not, and they have determinations and decisions and opinions. It's a regular court.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, you know what's very important.
Yeah.
It is very important as well. And what do you think the number one reason? I feel
Money.
bad. I feel bad because I keep trying. I know we gotta wrap it up, but I have so many questions.
Money.
Money's the number one reason people get disbarred.
Money.
Just trying to
What
get
do you
more
mean? What do you
money.
mean by that?
Yeah.
They're willing to bend their rules if they have rules. Okay, the person might not have rules from the get-go, but they're willing to do something for money, to make more money, that violates what we call the canons of ethics. That's what governs attorneys in California, the ethical canons. And they say you can't do certain stuff. Lie to your client, lie to the court, steal money. The number one thing that attorneys do that gets them in trouble with the bar is actually, the number one complaint clients have is lack of communication, but the number one thing that gets attorneys in trouble with the bar is playing with money they have in their attorney-client trust account. Okay? We will often receive money on behalf of our clients. It's actually our clients' money. And some attorneys will use that money before they distribute it to their clients.
On what?
Whatever.
So you're talking about in the case of like a settlement as well, right? So if the settlement comes in and they're holding it like I'm the escrow and I'm about
It's
to.
it's quite a bit like an escrow.
And they're like,
And say, I got to do payroll this week, so maybe I'll just borrow $10,000 from my client because I'll get it back from them next week.
Right.
It doesn't. It's
That's
not
sort of
good.
like what is it? Taking from Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
Yes. And sometimes they just keep it. Okay. You do it exactly what we were talking about. Google disbarred attorneys, and a new ethical rule came down effective January 1st of this year because of an attorney named, and it's public, Girardi. Okay. He stole millions of monies from his client, from his trust account. All right. From his firm. He's been disbarred. His last name's Girardi. It was so bad that the state bar came up with a new rule on what we have to do and how we have to count for our trust funds. All right, brand new this year.
And it's called the Girardi rule.
Yes,
Dang.
You know,
Yeah,
I can
he's
see
done.
like as like a white collar crime.
it is a white collar crime.
Right?
He stole money from his clients.
It is like you hear about CPAs doing, or I think like CPAs doing this, where they'll just take not CPAs,
Like financial advisor.
financial advisors. They'll do this. They'll just take
a percent.
pennies
Yeah.
from everybody. So I didn't even know lawyers could do that, or how they would
We can
even
do that.
get away with doing that. I
Yeah.
mean, like
We
how-
have to do accounting to the penny.
how they would get away with doing that. Like our clients
Well-
owe $25,000. We'll give them $24,000.
Okay,
Right,
so
right.
so your client believes you, and a lot of times when I settle a personal injury case, my client owes the doctor's money because the doctor's awaited payment for treatment. Like
Right.
they provide it on a lien basis. Well, the bill and the lien might be $2,000. Well, I'll call up the doctor and say, you know what, this is the recovery. I want you to accept $1,500. All right, and the doctor says yes. But I tell the client, I don't. But the attorney says, oh, I had to pay him the full $2,000.
Right.
They just pocketed $500.
I mean, even what about even something as simple as our settlement was $1 million, but it was really $2 million.
Well, the problem
you know,
with that
or something like that.
The client does have to sign the release. The client
Okay.
knows how much
It'll
money,
say it right in there, okay.
But in terms of depositing funds to expedite clearance of the check and things like that, for example, my retainer agreement and my power of attorney gives me authority to endorse the check on behalf of my client for depositing it in, not for distributing, but depositing it in my trust account. It expedites clearance of the funds. But they got to sign the release, so
Yeah.
they'll know what the gross amount is.
Right.
But there's any number of ways.
So many expenses. Oh, we had
so
to
many
pay for
expenses.
this. We had to do that.
Yeah. You know, we're supposed to account down to photocopies. How much did we spend on photocopies? How much did we spend on mail, which is getting better with electronic? But you know, we used to have to mail all of the legal court documents, right?
Yeah.
Thousands of dollars in some cases for photocopying, or for postage. You know, there's any number of ways that an attorney can deceive their client, and that client just trusts you. It's a violation of trust.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you one more question, because I know you're a busy man, but I also know you like us very much.
I do. I'm having a great time.
What are 3 things that you should look out for?
I got to come up with 3 things.
Just three. What are 3 things you should look out for on hiring an attorney? Like 3 things that would keep you from. What are 3 things to watch out for when hiring an attorney, and keeping an eye out on why this isn't going to be the attorney for you?
If you're injured in San Diego, why are you talking to some guy at a gas station who is there for a Los Angeles attorney? Okay, number 1. Los Angeles attorneys come down. They have cappers or other people that are not attorneys that sign up a lot, particularly mono Spanish clients, to represent them, and they sign them up in San Diego. The person was injured in San Diego, worked in San Diego, lives in San Diego, but for whatever reason, some representative for an LA mill signed them up, and that is never a winning formula. And that's actually an example of a situation where I will take a case that I would not normally take, because this unsophisticated person got tricked into signing with an LA attorney. The Los Angeles bar is the main reason we have so many strict rules now, because most of the ethical violations take place in LA, and it actually increases things like my malpractice insurance premiums because of LA.
Wow.
But anyway, so number 1, don't trust an LA attorney. Number 2, if you get a bad vibe, you walk in their office and you get a bad vibe, don't hire that attorney, because when you first meet an attorney, they're trying to impress you. When you first meet their staff, they're trying to impress you. And if you get a bad vibe on day 1, it isn't going to get better. Okay? You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Something's off. Trust your gut.
Yeah. And you don't want it to be off. It's a relationship of trust. The client has to trust the attorney. Number 3, the most important thing, and I've said it 5 times already, rely upon somebody you know and trust to hire your attorney. Don't rely upon what you read or hear.
Or scroll through.
Or scroll through. Or see go by on a bus.
Yeah.
Man,
Sure. That was awesome.
I want to get into why LA attorneys potentially could be so dirty, but I'll save it for the next one.
Yeah.
I think it's competition.
And there's
There's
a
so many-
higher concentration of people there, so there's probably way more firms.
It's even more competitive than San Diego.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Man,
Well, we'll save it. We'll save it for the next time.
that's 3 hours. Okay.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Stuart, that was awesome. We really appreciate you coming
Guys,
on.
I really enjoyed this.
Great time
Yeah,
talking to you.
Pleasure.
I'll give you some names of people that
Yeah.
you might want to talk to.
Yeah.
That will have a very different take.
All right.
This has been another episode of the Get Louder podcast.
Outro.